Good evening. I'm Terry Yoffe, and welcome to Coach World TV. Tonight, as my guest, I have a very, very special guest, somebody that I've known for a few years, and I've actually worked with her, Tysan Lerner. Hi, Tysan.
Hi, Terry.
Tysan is a personal trainer and founder of Mind Body Personal Training. And I was fortunate enough to have her be my guest tonight. So, Tysan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. It's absolutely my pleasure. As Tysan knows, we've been actually training together, and she has done amazing, amazing things with me and with my body, and helping me certainly with the back issues that I've had. So, Tysan, tell us a little bit about your philosophy in how you train people. It's very interesting.
Well, basically, I feel that people can get themselves to a place where they can really get into shape that's going to help them stay out of pain and not only find the physical results that they want, look better, feel more confident, stand taller, have more energy, but also do it in a way that's healthy for their body from the inside out, so that maybe oftentimes people get very gung-ho about fitness, and they go to the gym and they start to, run on the treadmill and lift all these weights. And unfortunately, what happens to a lot of people is they end up hurting themselves. If it's not the first year, it might be the second year or the third year, because their form isn't correct.
Right.
So I work really hard at teaching my clients how to approach exercise in a way where they're really paying attention to their own body, really understanding how to move and breathe correctly and stand correctly, so that they're getting the best possible results.
That's great. I'm just going to share with them a little about our story, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Actually, I had met Tysan, about 2 years ago, something like that, and I suffered from back pain. And when I started working with Tysan, she really helped me with my core muscles and my abdomen and how to hold myself. I'm trying to hold myself now. and stand correctly. And even when I exercise, I always remember and hear her words. It's like, pull up your jeans, tighten your jeans, so that you're really holding the core here and strengthening it and tightening it. And it has made such a difference in my life. And it's just amazing how you do it. It's in the breathing, it's in the standing, it's in the moving.
Right. Well, I once went to Lincoln Center, and I had an opportunity to see Baryshnikov performing on stage, and he was doing a solo. And the thing that struck me the most about the way he moved was his limbs, his arms and his legs seemed absolutely weightless. But his center was so strong, and everything just came out and extended from his center. And I thought, this is the way masters move. And so I always, even though most of my clients, when they come to me, are novice at fitness, I'll always try to teach them how to move from their center. And that involves understanding how to, what people call either diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, so that you're not breathing up here in the chest area.
Most people, I think, breathe up here.
Most adults breathe up here.
Instead of breathing from all the way down here.
Right. And when you breathe from down here, you're actually able to relax some of your chest and your back muscles, and you're able to find your internal supportive abdominal muscles, which will help strengthen and lengthen your spine and stabilize your hips. So it's actually very crucial to understand how to breathe, and that's the foundation for pretty much all fitness, actually. Once you get down to a more, I teach it at the very beginning, but once people get to a certain level, they all have to learn how to breathe correctly.
So even though we're not all masters like Baryshnikov,
yes, that's true.
How can we, as laymen, what can you tell us a little bit about maybe how to breathe a little bit and find your center? I think everyone would like to know that.
Well,
we're still all looking for our centers.
Babies naturally breathe into their belly, which is one of the reasons why it's recommended. I don't know. When my kids were little, they said, you know, don't leave your baby on its belly, always leave it on its back, so that, because it's harder for them to breathe when they're on their stomach, and they're breathing naturally into our bellies. But as we get more stressed out, next time you feel anxious or stressed out, just notice whether you're holding your breath, and also notice where your breath is, because oftentimes what usually happens is it gets stuck in here.
Yeah.
And all you have to do
Absolutely.
is exhale.
Yeah, I know. I think that I find myself sometimes holding my breath.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
you know, like, okay, I got to take a deep breath and do
Right.
something.
Right. Well, that's hyperventilation, where
Right.
people start to
Yeah, yeah, right.
So it's
I've had that
really
happen.
important to, yeah, so
Right.
once that happens, actually the key to resolving it is very simple.
Right.
It's just exhaling for a long, slow period of time to get the air out.
Right.
You'll always have to inhale.
I'm trying it now.
Right. I mean, and then what we'll see,
Yeah.
and then what happens is, if you've been dealing with anxiety or stress in that way, it just
Yeah.
becomes a natural way of being, where you just notice, oh, I breathe into my chest a lot. Like you're noticing,
Right.
as we're talking about
Right.
it,
Right.
you're noticing where your breath is stuck.
Yes, yes.
So then you want to try to drop it down into your belly and see if you can slow your breathing down and start to elongate your breathing. And as you practice that, taking slower breaths, longer breaths, what ends up happening is it starts to become more and more natural, so that as you're breathing, you don't have to think, okay, I'm going to breathe really slowly right now, and I'm going to let my belly expand out to here and then come in.
Pull in.
Right. But naturally, a real belly breath would mean that your belly would expand out as you breathe in, and your belly will go in as you breathe out.
Right, right, right.
And that's how you're able to, that's one way to find your abdominal muscles.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about how you actually got into training. I know that you started out in ballet.
Right.
And kind of segued here. Tell us a little bit about that and the
Okay.
transition.
Well, I started dancing when I was 5, and I was in a professional training program. I was a scholarship student at the Joffrey Ballet School in New York.
Wonderful.
And once I became a young adult and I was in the professional training program, I got injured. And it forced me to stop dancing. So actually, I got injured a lot growing up. And so what I ended up doing, because I was injured so often, was I was finding myself in physical therapist's office, and I was getting sent to Pilates teachers and gyrotonic teachers, which are all these different mind-body movement therapies that help dancers, usually help dancers recover from their injuries. And so I started to get really interested in how the body works. And I was also very interested in why I was always injured. So what I ended up doing in order to heal myself was change my diet, for one, because I recognized that the way I was eating wasn't conducive to the way I was healing, and it wasn't keeping my joints and ligaments strong. So I made sure to eat. I started to eat really clean foods. I cut out all the preservatives, artificial sugars, real sugar I cut out, and I learned how to cook. I didn't know how to cook. And I really went on a big sort of mission to incorporate all of that into my life, and that helped me a lot. Yes, because a lot of people with back pain have also some digestive issues, and so if you can work on dealing with, why do you have digestive issues, or if your internal health is just a little bit off, if you can fine-tune those things, it'll help back pain. I have one client who I ran into on the street. She's been out of town for a while, so I hadn't seen her. She's opening, anyways, she's in London. But she told me, I cut out all dairy. Now, I'm not advocating people cut out all dairy, because everybody's built differently. and this just happened to be what she needed
Right. Uh-huh.
because she had discovered that it wasn't good for her. And she said that she lost a ton of weight just from cutting out the
Yeah.
dairy,
Uh-huh.
and her back was feeling tremendously
Really?
better.
That's great.
So anyhow, I started to incorporate that into my life, and I found that by working, I met somebody who was a trainer, and he told me I should take what I've learned and teach it to people. And so I
Excellent.
started to do that, and I started to get all of these different injured people. And I was
Ah.
like, oh, I've had that injury. Oh, I know that one. Oh, yeah.
So you could identify with them
I was
and what
able
they
to-
did.
Right.
And I just want to stop and say one of the other things that ties us together is this doctor that I had
Oh,
gone
yeah.
to for my back. My physical therapist had recommended this Dr. Backrack. And a year or so ago, I had started going to him. And so I find out that Tysan, many years ago,
Right.
had also gone to Dr.
My
Backrack.
first time in a physical
So-
therapy office was Dr. Backrack's
So
practice.
it's so interesting how, you know, your paths meet on many different levels.
Yeah.
And who would have known that, you know, we both know Dr. Backrack.
Right.
But that's just an aside, and I think an interesting one.
But since we're talking about injuries, I'd like to just address
Sure.
the fact that many people think that, you know, they have some pain somewhere and they have to go and they get an epidural or they get some kind of, you know, they take Advil,
yes.
they do. But there are so many therapies, movement therapies and alternative therapies that don't have side effects that people can turn to. They can go and get, if it's recommended to get a cortisone shot or whatever it is, they can go ahead and do that. But in addition to that, fitness, I've seen fitness heal people of major
Yeah,
things, avoid surgery, avoid, you know, and so if you can take the steps, find the right person to help you, take the steps that you need so that you can feel better. I mean, it's so simple and yet so helpful for
Yeah,
people.
it's just as a reminder when I was having really back issues before I went to Dr. Backrack, and he was my savior. I went to several surgeons thinking I needed back surgery, and actually one of them said to me, what you need to do is really strengthen your body. You really need to strengthen it. You haven't because of the problems you've had, that your body is weak.
Right.
And when I saw Dr. Backrack and he was able to do what he did best, he was a prolotherapist, it made the world of difference. And because my back has been so great, I've really, and working with you and of course helping me a lot, I have noticed in my exercise routine that I am now able to really navigate a treadmill and a elliptical in a very different way than I could. And this week I finally did a Zumba class, and I really didn't think I would ever have been able to do
Right.
it because of the dancing for an hour.
Yeah.
And I was, other than the stamina portion, I was really able to
That's
stick with it.
so good.
And, you know, my back twinged a little bit, but not in comparison to what it would have happened to it.
Right.
So, you know, you're right. I mean, there are many other ways to take care of one's body, and I used to go for epidurals, and then they wore off and I couldn't get them anymore.
Right.
So we do a lot of things, but
Yeah.
you know, there are many, many types of exercises. And I think you mentioned to me that on your website you have, is that correct? Lots of different exercises.
Yes, well, I also write, and I've written a number of
Right.
articles for the Epic Times,
Right.
which is an international newspaper, but has a local edition in New York City. And so they have a fitness section, and I've written a ton of articles. There's a section called Move of the Week, and I've written all about different exercises and broken them down so that you understand how to do them correctly, as well as some tips on relieving back pain and tips on weight loss.
Right. So where would our audience find this information if they wanted to go to the Epic Times?
There's a link on my website, which is www.mindbodypersonaltraining.com. You can also go to www.theepictimes.com and click onto their health and fitness section.
Great. Well, if you're all interested in finding out what kind of great exercises you could do, please feel free to do that. So what do you think makes you unique in what you bring to the personal training landscape? I know it might be a tough question, but I know that you do. And the combination and the philosophy behind mind, body, and training, and you know, we kind of touched upon it in the beginning, but maybe you can go into it a little bit more.
Yeah, so I really force people to focus when they're exercising.
Yes.
It actually, um, if you don't have the patience for focusing, or if you can't kind of get yourself to I don't know, get yourself interested in it enough, you might not like training with me that much.
Yeah.
Because I think that form and alignment is absolutely essential to get
Yes.
the results that people want. If you're just doing squats and your
Yeah.
your knees are going in and your feet are going out and your back is hunching and your stomach's hanging out,
Yeah.
you're definitely not going to feel the results that you want to feel. You might end up feeling knee pain, and all of a sudden you've got, I have heard many people have developed a notion that squats hurt their knees. Actually, it's just incorrect squats hurt one's
I'm
knees.
sure. Yes.
Because it's a difficult exercise. So I guess what makes me unique is that I'm really able to help people figure that stuff out. And I also have, I guess what truly makes me unique is that I have this ability to watch a person and listen to their body.
Yes.
And so there might be something that's just a little bit off, and that little piece that's off is the thing that's causing all this pain throughout the body. And if we can just get that piece to work correctly and get back into alignment and start to work with the body, then everything else will work properly. And all of a sudden this person might see that their body changing, how it feels, how it looks, how, not only externally but internally, their energetic levels, their mood. So.
I can certainly say that in working with Tysan, I think definitely listening to what the client has to say, because in many instances we'd be doing an exercise and I'd say, oh, that hurts my back. So we would shift or we wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be, okay, just go through it and, you know, feel the pain, which some personal trainers might say.
Right.
But
no, I really believe in figuring out how to do the exercise so that you can without hurting yourself.
Right. Yeah, and even when I do them today, and Tysan's not with me, but she's always in my back pocket, especially when I get on the mat and I start to do my back exercises, I know always to really be feeling where my core muscles are, and am I engaging them, and when I do the exercises, to know that they're not hurting, and when I kind of get up in that bridge type exercise where it used to hurt me, it doesn't anymore. If I engage and I really hold in. And I don't have my muscles just there, but they're really tight and engaged.
They're working for you.
And it's funny when you see people doing the crunches, and I look at them and I say, they're not doing it correctly. Because you can just watch people and know when you've been trained with someone what's correct and what's not.
Right.
And it's a world of difference. So definitely I think you're very unique in listening to the client and what they're saying and what they need. I mean, it's always been a wonderful, I don't love training, I don't love exercise, but I do it anyway because we have to, I have to.
Right.
And it's very important, and you feel the difference. And it's made a world of difference to my body and how I hold myself and, my stamina and all of that. So, yes, you have some very unique qualities. Very much so.
I also try to figure out how to, you just said, I certainly don't like to exercise. Well, there are ways, because I'm a mother of 2 young children, I, for myself, have had to figure out how to work out in a way that is not wasteful. It's not wasting time. I used to spend hours in the gym, literally. I could. I had the time too. I was working in a gym, so had a break for a couple of hours. I would just use that time to work out, and I had to really figure out when I had my children and when my practice got really busy, how to workout in the most efficient manner while still keeping
Well, your
my
other bit life going.
well, also while still keeping my physique, because that's my profession.
Right,
I can't
exactly.
just let it go.
No, no.
So,
So why don't you tell us a little bit, because I'm sure everyone wants to know, including me. It's very hard to fit it in when you've got a full life, and you're trying to fit in your calendar.
right.
When can I work out?
Well, you can actually get really great results in a shorter amount of time as long as you're working hard during the time that you're working. So if you can start to take, for example, with cardiovascular work, in the past, I'd say in the past few years, they've discovered, there've been a ton of scientific studies that have discovered that you can more effectively burn fat if you do something called burst training, which means that you kind of, whether you're on the bike, the treadmill, the elliptical, or in a pool, you burst through 30 seconds to 1 minute, 30 to 60 seconds of what would be, by your standard, an intense amount of time. So if you deal with a bad back, running at top speed might not be realistic for you,
Yes.
but you have to figure out something that can help you pant. Get out of breath.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right. Yes, I do.
And something that will make you feel that you've pushed yourself to the edge, both emotionally, physically, everything.
Yes.
Really physically is what you want to feel.
Mind, body, and spirit.
There you go. But you only do it for 30 to 60 seconds.
Right.
And then you rest and you walk. Let's say you're on the treadmill, so you sprint for 30 seconds, and then you walk very slowly. I mean, really slowly, like you're just enjoying the sunshine for 2 to 3 minutes until your breathing and your heart rate has come back completely to normal.
Okay.
And then you do it again. And you repeat that cycle 4 to 6 times, depending on what kind of shape you're in. As you get better, you can keep repeating it for a longer period of time. And it only takes 12 to 20 minutes to complete.
So you could...
But you'll burn 3 times the amount of fat that you would if you were walking or jogging at a moderate pace for 40 minutes.
Okay, very interesting. And, for all of us that have busy schedules, if you go up to the gym for half hour,
you can get incredible results.
Yeah.
Also putting exercises with strength training, putting them, back to back, learning how to do them correctly, understanding that, when you're doing a bridge, a pelvis, when you're lying on your back and you lift your hips up, or if you're doing a squat, that you're engaging your abdominal muscles, you're engaging your back muscles properly, that your alignment, your ears and your shoulders or your hips are properly aligned. Your head isn't jutting forward.
Right.
All of these things have to be in alignment.
Right.
You'll feel every muscle in your body working.
Yeah. And I think most people don't do that correctly unless they're told.
Right.
Because nobody knows.
No,
you think you are. As far as the treadmill goes, I have actually started doing that thanks to Tysan, that I'll get on the treadmill. I can't really run.
No,
it's
but you
actually,
go on an incline.
But I do run. I mean, there are times I get on it and I just need to get that energy out. So I'll put the speed at, I don't know, 4.2 or 4.3, and I will kind of fast walk or run, even though I'm not allowed to, for a short time, and then I'll come back down.
Right. Well, also the interesting thing is I'm not a big advocate for running, like just hard, constant pounding.
Yeah, I can't do
like
that
the marathon,
anyway.
I usually try to, I understand why people do it, but I think it's not, it isn't really for health reasons. If you're doing it for health reasons, you really might want to reevaluate that, because it's a huge strain on one's body.
Right.
But if you're sprinting, if you're running or walking, speed walking, or sprinting, I mean like at a fast speed, it's has a totally different effect on the body than if you're jogging.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting thing because it forces you to engage your pelvic floor muscles, the base of your pelvis. It forces you to engage your abdominal muscles. It forces you to engage your inner thigh muscles. It forces you to engage your butt muscles. It forces you to engage everything. It forces you to engage all of the muscles that protect the impact on the spine.
Right, exactly.
If you're sprinting, not jogging, but sprinting, it forces you to protect the muscles surrounding your spine. and therefore you won't have this,
Yeah.
this is my vertebrae, right? You
Right,
won't
you
have
can't,
this,
right,
this pounding
right.
because,
But you see people doing that. I see them up at the gym. They're just running and running and pounding. I mean, certainly because of my back, I can't do that. And I
Right.
feel it when I do it.
right,
But, so, you feel I want to get the energy out.
right,
So I try to do what I can.
right,
And then I come back down, like you say,
right,
and then I'll go on an incline of 4 or 5, but keep the speed down.
right,
And then I'm just going like this,
right.
and I really feel it.
Well,
And
that's another good point, is that if you're also putting a lot of variables into your workout, you're not just doing the same thing all the time, but you're going up a hill, straight, flat, faster, slower.
Uh-huh.
Your body has to adjust
Right.
and adapt to all of that, and so you'll get results much faster.
Well,
Yeah.
it's great. Look at what you can start doing. I mean, just in a short amount of time. So what about weight loss and dieting, and how do you kind of pull everything together? We have about 2 minutes left, and I really would like.
I would say, keep the sanity. This is sort of a
Yeah.
big thing
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
but especially in New York, many people get very crazy about their bodies and about what they're eating and about diet. There's nothing wrong with making really good choices, and there's nothing wrong with deciding to make those choices to lose weight. I mean, assuming you need to, but but um, but do it. Be, Beating yourself up or being too hard on yourself usually will set somebody up for failure because they're too perfectionistic.
Yeah.
So I would say be rational, be sane, and if you don't know what that means when it comes to food and exercise, then talk to somebody. Figure that out, because the goal would be understanding what it means to eat normally. Right?
Yeah.
What does a healthy person eat?
And each person would be different for each person. So
And
they
that-
have to find what's right for them.
Right.
And, what they're comfortable with and what they, want to do as an exercise
Right. I
plan
mean,
as well.
my personal experience was that once I was able to start to really listen to my body and intuitively eat and not be too scared about eating, I actually I used to be 30 pounds heavier.
Wow.
I ended up losing 30
Great.
pounds, but that wasn't by following a diet. That was actually by not following a diet, just being more mindful.
So let's have your website very quickly again before we end here.
Okay.
We have 2 seconds.
You can find me at mindbodypersonaltraining.com. And again, my name is Tysan Lerner, and you can find articles that I've written on fitness as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.